Greetings fellow mammals, I know, I said we would go back to the regular schedule last video, but the health risk episode has to wait just a little longer, because as you might have heard about, there is another new weapon that you can unlock by solving an extremely tedious Easter egg hunt. Or you just glitch it. I won't show or explain how to do that, but you should be able to find that out by yourself pretty quickly if you look it up on Reddit. So whatever you choose to do, once you have that weapon, it's called the prototype by the way, and that name is quite fitting. Here is my recommended loadout, although I am honestly not 100% confident in that ammo choice, but I'll get to that in a second. So, from a first impression, I would currently rank this as an A tier weapon, but probably not for the reasons you might think. Therefore, let's not waste any more time and get into the nitty-gritty details. On this weapon we get two ammo types. Yeah, okay, it's free, but one is armor piercing, so that doesn't really count. First off, we have standard ammo. Profile-wise, this looks pretty good, although the actual time to kill is really not that great. The other option would be high power, which is slightly worse, but has some good range improvement in the most relevant distances. And if you have been wondering what's up with all that empty space on the chart, well, I figured I'd show you what armor piercing can do, since some people keep asking why I never talk about it. There you go. See? You happy now? Good. Then let me wipe this shit off my screen again. The two actually usable ammo types are, by the way, a 1-to-1 rip-off from the SFAR, just slower firing, therefore worse. But range and damage wise, it's the exact same. Which also means if you land one headshot, you can lower the BTK by 1. So with this weapon, it's actually worth it to go for one headshot in each gunfight. But that brings me to the ammo choice, and I gotta be honest, I tried both for some matches and I couldn't really decide. In a 1v1, neither will be competitive. The time to kill is just too slow. At mid-range, standard kinda sucks, and with high power you only get 20 rounds. Overall, it's kind of meh. But since close range fights rely more on time to kill than mid-range, I ultimately went with high power because if you do manage to get that headshot in, it does manage to become competitive, at least slightly. So standard will be backup. And because there is nothing else, armor piercing can come along too, but that should be the last resort after your knife. That all sounded really rough. I wonder how that A tier comes to fruition. Well, before we get there, let's just quickly tick off the barrel section first. We do have the Type 4 here, but I hate to tell you that with this damage profile it lowers the BTK at all ranges. And since we don't have subsonic ammo anyway, it doesn't really make sense to use it. For some reason the only other stealth option we get is the 6KU, which is even worse damage wise. So also garbage. I have no idea why there is no wrapped suppressor available on this thing, but I guess DICE strikes again. So what we are ultimately left with is the RCOM. I saw some people use the champion because of the already little horizontal recoil to really crunch down the rest of the vertical, but personally I didn't like it. Warhawk isn't necessary either, this weapon really isn't that hard to control. And in the second slot you might as well put the Type 4, but I don't think it's ever worth actually using it unfortunately. And for the third slot we don't really need anything. But now we can finally talk about the good stuff. But let me start with the slightly less good stuff. The underbarrel, or in this case actually top barrel, HE launcher. This weapon has an integrated grenade launcher that comes with 5 in the chamber and 15 in the magazine. Damage wise, this is basically the exact same as Zane's airburst, so 45 damage up close and even on a direct hit. So for a kill you would have to land 3 shots on or near the target. And different to Zane, this is not airburst but impact, so you actually have to land those hits. From the fire rate and how the accuracy works, more on that in a second, I would not recommend to use this up close. This is definitely more intended for mid-range usage, like shooting people at a window or in a doorway. Another use for it, since you have such a big ammo pool, you don't have to care about ammo all too much, is to just spam it into smoke grenades where you think someone is reviving. That works pretty well too, but you have to be stationary to actually hit anything, because here is the thing about accuracy. As you can see reflected by the crosshairs, if you move while you shoot this launcher, it becomes very inaccurate. But if you stand still and even better aim in, it does actually get quite accurate even at such long ranges. And we can make use of that mechanic in a different way, but that is more useful on the next gadget in line, the smoke launcher. And this is where this weapon rises up to A tier. For dedicated medic players, maybe even S. Because right here we have an underbarrel smoke launcher launcher with 3 singular shots in a chamber and 12 to reload. And I'll let you in on another little mechanic abuse I found. Yes, the launcher is very inaccurate while moving, even with the smokes, but if you jump and aim, it gets the same perfect accuracy as if you would stand still. And if you have learned any of the movement mechanics in this game anyway, you will easily pick this up in seconds. Equip smoke, jump, perfectly place it, revive, move on. It works flawlessly. And not only is 15 an insane amount of smoke, it also replenishes from regular ammo boxes. And you can place all of these individually. But here's the best part, different to the regular smoke launchers, these pop instantly. There is no bounce to them. So let's imagine up on that ridge is some guy shooting at me, pop, 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 and now he can't see shit. And by the time I run up there, I have another 3 smokes ready. Or let's say I want to cross this street safely, but there is no cover. Pop, pop, pop. There you go. And of course the best use is simply to use it for quick revives. With this thing you have no excuse to revive without smoke anymore. It's just way too easy. And if you think about it, if you play Falk mainly with this weapon, you might even be able to just ditch the regular smoke grenades for something else. I mean, with this gadget you have 15 smokes anyway. Maybe an EMP grenade to fuck with vehicles or something else. Whatever you like. Although incendiary won't make a whole lot of sense with so much smoke around. The obvious downside of all this is just that this weapon in itself is a bad SFAR. But if you can manage close range encounters with the Deagle and use this just for the long range, that works. I should have some gameplay of that in the background. So to close this up, I personally actually have the smoke in the first place and HE as backup. And for the sights, the red dot, thermal and 4x switchable. I know that the default sight is also a thermal and has a switchable iron sight, but that wobbles around so much it's basically unusable to me. So with that, the loadout is done. I guess I already explained why I put this in A tier, but to summarize, if this weapon had a slightly higher fire rate, I would move it up into S tier. For medic mains, it should already be there, but not because of its performance, but just because of the smoke. This is essentially the best smoke gadget in the entire game, and you don't have to give up your ammo box for it. For all the other players that don't run medic, it's still really useful because you get 15 smokes to start with. It takes some time to empty that out, and by then you might have actually come across an ammo box if the battlefield gods have mercy on you. But just from a weapon standpoint, this would be like a C, probably more D tier to be honest. So if you want a good weapon, this is not it. If you can see the value of having so much smoke and a non-airburst Zane launcher, then it is very appealing. I'm actually a bit sad we get such a unique concept so late into the life cycle of this game. This could have carried medics for seasons. But hey, it is what it is. That's it for today, and I'm not announcing when I'll be going back to regular schedule because fuck it, doesn't work out anyway. I will see you on the battlefield. Sorrow out.